The following transmission is an utterly nonsense podcast exclusive presentation. Cue that motherfucking 8-bit intro.
Previously on Utterly Nonsense.
You stole my list, honestly. Yeah, well, I was kind of undecided whether I would put, what do you call, where I would put, like, Wonder Woman or Justice League. Whether, Wonder Woman is better than League, but no. It can't be better than Justice League. I have to believe that it's not better than the team-up movie,
okay,
but we'll discuss that.
What?
The camera for John's just like shut off and came back on.
Don't worry about it. Okay, so I'm gonna go.
I was the Flash. I ran away to get another slice of pizza, ate it, and
Okay,
came back.
for me, Wonder Woman, Justice League, Suicide Squad, Batman v Superman, and sadly, Man of Steel is at the bottom for me.
Okay.
I think I touched on
I
it.
respect
You were
your
wrong,
opinion, even
but
though
okay.
you're wrong. Yeah.
And now, for the new episode of Utterly Nonsense.
Okay, so it's been, about 2 weeks since the last time we actually recorded one of these? I might be off on the time span a little bit. It feels like it's been a while.
Yeah, I think it's been around 2 weeks. We did a whole big Star Wars thing, and those always get a little bit tiring because there's always a debate, and it's always inevitably becomes about business. So guess what we're going to be talking about this time? More business, except not Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, just to go over Star Wars real quick, I actually ended up rewatching Last Jedi, like, right after we did that. I will say, like, Rose was my one big complaint with it, and she becomes much less irritating with subsequent watchings. And that's not to say she's not an irritating character. She still is, no matter what, but, I feel like I can ignore it a little more now. Like, it doesn't really kill it for me like it did the first time.
Yeah. Like, specifically as a character, I didn't find her that annoying other than the line at the end. It was more just the whole situation that she got into with Finn and all that. Felt out of place, but then again, I also thought that the whole ship chase scene that went throughout the whole movie was pretty boring too, so...
Yeah. I don't know. So, we're obviously not doing too much Star Wars stuff. We're here to talk DC
that was
tonight.
done to death.
We're here to do some DC stuff, which, another topic we've beaten to death, but hopefully we can get a new angle out of it for tonight.
Yeah, we're going to beat it a little bit more.
Yep.
With a bat this time. So, DC, post-Justice League, which... I don't want to say was a complete failure. It was just a disappointment.
Right.
I think is the most accurate term.
Well, failure is the wrong word. It still made like a decent amount of money. It was just it was a lot like Solo in that it just didn't meet their expectations. And fans were a little bit pissed off by the whole thing. It had a mixed reception.
It was, out of all the current 5 DC movies, the ones that have the shared universe, the lowest grossing in total. But I think it still may have made a small profit, unlike Solo, which definitely lost money.
Again, when you factor in advertising, who can say? I mean, again, if you're just factoring in the budget of the film itself, Solo did still turn a profit, as did Justice League, so... we covered that all last week, so I'm not going to go too deep into that. But, yeah.
Well, this time, for those watching, I did make another graphic with all of the box office numbers for each of the movies, but I didn't go as much in depth to it this time because, honestly, last time, the numbers, you can't really get precise with it. There's just so many factors that could go into it, and websites report different things, so... I just went with really simple round numbers this time. Production cost flat and box office numbers. Just put them there, and that's it. I didn't do anything else. Just so you can see them, how they fluctuate.
Yeah, well said. So where to start with this? Do we want to cover Justice League specifically, or like what's worked about the DC universe so far, what hasn't worked? I guess let's just dive into initial complaints. What's wrong with the DC universe?
Well, how do you want to come at it? Like, what's wrong in our opinion, or what do we think is wrong from like a universe world building standpoint?
I guess let's start with the universe world building, since I think that's really like the key point we're trying to make here.
All right, so I would say they got Superman down, I thought, fairly well with Man of Steel.
Debatable.
Batman, everybody knows, so they didn't really have to do too much with him.
Right.
Wonder Woman, kind of shoehorned in to Dawn of Justice, but then she got her own movie.
Mm-hmm.
Now here's the problem. I don't know if I'm going to factor Suicide Squad into this, because it doesn't really connect to the other movies too much.
Well, I mean, they do reference that, Superman notably died, and that was the whole rationale for why they formed the Suicide Squad. So, I mean, it's sort of dependent on the other films, but it doesn't have any sort of impact.
That's what I mean. It's not, like, wholly a result of what happens. Now, Justice League, on the other hand, has 3 characters, I think. You have Cyborg, Flash, and Aquaman, who just appear out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And their whole stories haven't really been built, aside from the few little security camera footage things in Dawn of Justice. And so, at least I thought that Justice League was kind of a whole collage of random thoughts spilled onto the screen. And it showed. Because not only did you have all these characters who were underdeveloped, but you had 2 different directors' visions and a studio's vision all mixed into one mess.
Yeah.
So we don't really know what kind of direction it's going to go in. Is it still going to be serious? Is it going to be more Marvel-like?
Right. I mean, so that's the other real complaint I've had. It doesn't seem like there's any sort of overarching vision for all of these movies. There was, but with Zack Snyder gone, now there isn't. That's the thing. Snyder's impact was clear on Man of Steel, BVS, and Justice League to an extent. But with Suicide Squad and Wonder Woman, both did not really fit into that Snyder dynamic. That's just another thing that's problematic from a world-building standpoint. Like, you want some consistency in this whole universe if you want it to feel like a cohesive narrative. Which,
right.
Yeah, so, I mean, Wonder Woman, by far the most critically well-received. Fans, I think, had...
Yes, it was.
I think fans, again, are pretty mixed on it. A lot of people loved this movie. It was sort of seen as a female empowerment thing, first major female character to get her own movie. If you don't factor in Supergirl and all the shit from the 80s. But I choose to ignore that era of DC, but
yeah.
But
oh boy.
Yes.
Did you know, quick fact, that the some of the plot for Supergirl, I think specifically like the opening scene, that was supposed to have been in Superman 3. It's like Supergirl was supposed to have been in it, as well as Brainiac, and they were supposed to be introduced, but the whole original story got taken apart.
Right. If they make another Man of Steel, or if they do a decent amount more with Henry Cavill's Superman, I'd love to see Brainiac. Like, how have we not seen like a feature film version of Brainiac yet? Like, we have, I have no doubt in my mind that with modern CGI, you could easily make him look cool.
Oh yeah. The only issue with that would be if you made a Brainiac-centered film, would it be too much like Man of Steel with the whole giant machine ships invading Earth type thing?
Maybe. Then again, you could always do like the end of Justice League season 1. The whole Lex Luthor teams up with Brainiac, and you know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh, from Justice League Unlimited?
Yep. Wait, was it Unlimited or was it a original series? I thought it was original. It might be Unlimited.
I think it's Unlimited. It's the season finale of season 1.
Yeah. Okay, so that's
pretty sure.
But anyway, that was always pretty cool. And
yeah.
Mainly, I don't know. Brainiac was always one of the cooler Superman villains. Just sort of seems like he could actually fight Superman, and it could be a compelling fight.
Yeah. Plus the whole him being responsible or not so responsible, but connected to the destruction of Krypton.
So, I mean, just to tackle Man of Steel real quick, since, I've touched upon it before. We made a video way long time ago just comparing all of the DC films, like right when Justice League came out.
We ranked them, didn't we?
We did, and Man of Steel was at the bottom for me. I wouldn't say it's at the very bottom for me anymore. I think that spot's pretty much reserved for Suicide Squad at this point, but...
We can agree on that.
So Man of Steel is like right above that for me. I still think BVS is better. I still think Justice League and Wonder Woman are better. But again, there haven't been a lot of standout moments from the DCEU so far, so it's not really like too dramatic of a gap between any of these. So
my list.
I was
gonna say my list I would keep the same, except for Wonder Woman. I would definitely put above Justice League. It took me only a couple weeks to decide that.
Right.
That Wonder Woman is definitely better than Justice League.
Yeah, is BVS still at the very top for you, or?
No, Man of Steel is at the top.
Okay.
Then BVS.
Then Wonder
only
Woman.
Because I'm biased to, my two favorite characters, Superman and Batman. It's the first time they're on the screen, so it's almost like I have to like it.
Right.
Like when the movie Green Lantern came out, I liked the character at the time, so I'm like, I have to like this movie because there's nothing else.
Yeah, which admittedly I think Green Lantern gets way more shit than it deserves. I didn't hate Ryan Reynolds in it. I think the only real complaint people had were the villain and just the use of CGI. But I don't know. It had potential to be decent. Just another failed attempt with DC, I guess.
It just makes me wonder: was the only reason he wasn't in Justice League because of that movie?
Well, that's the thing. Like, what people don't realize is that was supposed to be the start of the DC Extended Universe, like the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern film, but it just was so poorly received that they just knew they couldn't make a universe off of this.
Yeah, kind of like the Tom Cruise Mummy.
Yeah. It's basically the exact same scenario, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Dark Universe tried to do the same thing and relaunched a couple years later.
Without Tom Cruise.
Well, I mean, Universal has all of those properties. It's not like they'll ever become like more or less timely. But yeah. So my big problem with Man of Steel, just to go over it really quick, they tried to make Superman into a Nolan character. They tried to make Superman into something he's not. And there's nothing wrong with trying to give a character depth, but I don't know. It's not the Superman we know, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think they were trying to come at it from more of Superman's world.
Right.
That he doesn't know what to think because, like, of course, the world we live in today, you never know what to think one day or the next, who's good, who's not, who's well-intentioned. And so he's trying to figure out, should I be in the public light? Or what are these people going to do to me? What are they going to think? And then it's all about something forces him to come into the public light, and he takes the leap of faith to make himself known, and the people eventually accept him. But I really think that Dawn of Justice kind of completes that story because it's the whole rounded thing of him becoming an icon, and then so of course somebody distrusting him, and then the clash of can we trust this guy who has absolute power? Absolute power is always corrupted, or it always corrupts rather.
Right. Well, so
it's an interesting concept,
that's
handled a little shakily.
Yeah, that's another thing that was really the problem with Dawn of Justice. First of all, it shouldn't have been billed as Batman v Superman. I think that's false
I did not like
advertising.
that.
And I think that pissed a lot of people off. I think that's part of why it got such a poor critical reaction. Beyond that, first of all, the Snyder Cut was far superior to me. I know you don't see a strong difference between them, but just the development of Lex Luthor, the actual plot details, I think it just flows way more cohesively as a narrative. And that should have been the cut that fans got in theaters,
I would tend to agree with that. If not just for the one scene, well, I guess it doesn't matter now, but the one scene where you see Luthor in the ship's chamber, and you can see Steppenwolf on a hologram, it's like, that's the whole thing that he's talking about at the end.
Right.
That makes that whole end scene make sense when he's saying, the whoever is coming, and he's hungry.
Yeah. Which, admittedly, I didn't mind Steppenwolf so much as, at this point in the MCU, we got a lot of shitty villains. And Steppenwolf wasn't meant to be the big bad. He was just meant to be an inciting force. He was meant to be a teaser of what's to come. So, yeah, terrible villain, but I kind of get why they chose him as a villain, if that makes sense.
Yeah, obviously they wanted to build up to the big bad, but they just ran out of time, I guess.
Yeah. Again, a lot of cool scenes in Justice League that just, if they had spent like another year developing it, it probably would have been a really cool movie, like rivaling the Avengers good,
I did think it was weird that it came out the year after Dawn of Justice, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it just felt rushed,
Uh-huh.
So they should have started with Dawn of Justice. I would have cut out the solo movies altogether. I mean, Wonder Woman's one thing, since a lot of people don't know the origin, and it is nice to see her like fully fleshed out as a character. Like, we've seen the Batman origin, we've seen the Superman origin, just done to death. Wonder Woman is, despite being one of the big three, does not have the same sort of commercial appeal as the others, prior to the
Superman origin we haven't had on film since 1976. Technically.
Fair enough, but everyone knows about Krypton blowing up. Everyone knows about Batman's parents getting shot in an alley. People don't know about Themyscira, or they didn't prior to 2017.
But I think with Man of Steel, they definitely added a lot to it. Just all the designs of the world.
Mm-hmm.
They based them a lot on, I think it was the Man of Steel comic series, where they did a retelling of his origin. There was a lot of all these new designs, and it wasn't just an icy crystal world.
Sure.
Plus, we got Russell Crowe.
Yeah, it's true. He did make a damn good Jor-El.
Yeah, he did.
Beyond that, I think Suicide Squad was just completely unnecessary. Like, again, it's not a movie I hate. I actually do think it's a fun movie. I think, first time through, I actually really enjoyed it. The editing mistakes didn't become apparent to me until later on. The CGI was passable up until the final climactic fight. But it felt unnecessary this early on in the DCEU. It's basically their version of Guardians, or it's supposed to be, but it just didn't flow as well. And you'd think having all these well-known villains, they'd be able to make a more interesting story, but I don't know.
Well,
it just didn't stack up, I think, as well as people expected it to.
Well known, I don't know. Besides Joker and Harley.
Well, Killer Croc,
I
guess Diablo is not as well known, but
I had no idea who that was.
Yeah.
Until I watched the movie.
Where's he even Deadshot. From? Who, Killer Croc or Diablo?
Diablo.
That's actually a good question. He might have been an original Suicide Squad character, not in the movie, but in the comic.
Yeah. Funny thing was, I found him the most interesting in the whole movie.
Yeah, I think he had probably the most development of any of them. Of course, Harley Quinn inspired just a generation of girls to be, dressed as Harley for Halloween that year.
Yeah.
My sister,
and she wore the worst possible Harley outfit.
Well, funny thing, my sister, she's mentally, I don't want to say disabled, but that's technically the right term for it. Still dresses up like Harley Quinn all the time. Just still obsessed with that movie, and I don't get why.
I don't know.
But
I knew someone who used to like it a lot, too.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. She's like, oh, I love the Joker and Harley's relationship. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Again, and
hit her across the face a few times. Wake up. Wake up. This is not okay.
So,
abuse is not all right.
I do want to save this for a future episode, but just to tackle it quickly, there are a bunch of Joker spin-off and solo films. One with Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and again, we'll cover this in a later episode because I do have a theory based off of all this that I think will play pretty well. But
wasn't the Joaquin Phoenix one just a rumor?
No, it's going into production in a couple months, so. It's definitely happening.
You gotta be.
We'll get to it. It's not connected. As of right now, it's not connected to the DC Extended Universe. So.
Oh my god.
We'll bring that up in a later episode. But so what can the DCU do to expand from this point? Just to go over it quickly, what do you think is the right direction for them?
That's a tough one, considering it's probably. The only thing I could say is to do what they're gonna do, which is to make a few solo movies, and then if they do well, regroup and make an actual Justice League movie with some of the newer characters, I suppose.
Sure.
Because right now, what do we got coming? There's an Aquaman movie,
Aquaman in November, Shazam sometime next year.
Shazam next year.
Wonder Woman 2 or Wonder Woman 84, I guess, is the running title right now.
So we got 3. 3 already that we know of.
Flashpoint was announced, and they've already gotten, like, I think it's on its 4th round of directors already, so I'm not sure how likely it is that that's actually going to come out anytime soon, but that could function as a soft reboot for the DCEU.
I think that's their backup plan.
I'm guessing that's their idea if nothing pans out prior to now, but that wouldn't solve all their problems. Like, it wouldn't help with some of the casting mistakes, it wouldn't help with, I don't know. There's enough issues that just couldn't be addressed by him going back in time and trying to fix everything.
Yeah. What about Suicide Squad 2? Is that still in the works?
Yeah, that's being fast-tracked. I think it's a while away from development. I think they have it set to start filming next summer, so it's ways away, but it's still happening. As is the...
What I heard about that...
Yeah.
Huh?
Well, I was going to say the Birds of Prey film is also rumored to be coming soon, but I don't know how long, or I think that's going to be like 2021 or something, so that's years away too.
Birds of Prey or Batgirl?
No, Birds of Prey, because Batgirl got canned like beginning of this year, like Joss Whedon stepped away from it. But no, Birds of Prey is like, you're probably familiar, it's the whole like bunch of female supervillains from the Batman lore, Harley, Catwoman, Poison Ivy. I don't know.
No. This is going to be Gotham City Sirens. That was another idea I saw.
I'm pretty sure. Whatever. I don't know. I've heard a few conflicting reports of the whole thing. Like, we really don't know too much yet. Just that, Margot Robbie's producing the thing, and it's really her project.
Because Birds of Prey are traditionally, it always, I think, included Black Canary.
Okay.
And maybe Huntress, or Catwoman, or Batgirl.
Yeah.
Usually that group.
Right.
But yeah, I have no idea what they do with a movie. Again, these things are like less popular titles that they're taking a gamble with. They already do it Suicide Squad, and I don't know, they made money on it, and some people like it apparently.
Well, again, it's
just so bad, man.
It turned a pretty good profit. Like, it's dead center, 3rd highest grossing movie of the DCU, and it had one of the lowest budgets of any of them. So, I don't know. I can sort of see why Suicide Squad had its success. Like, I get it, So what can the DCU do to expand from this point? So what we've seen with Shazam so far, just the initial teaser images and stuff, looks pretty promising. Yeah. It seems like they are trying to
better than I thought so far.
Yeah. Well, it seems like they're trying to go in a lighter direction with it, or at least David Sanborn, is that the guy's name, the director?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, it looks like he's trying to go for a more, not necessarily Marvel direction, but a more family-oriented direction, a more lighter, family-friendly. Yeah, family-friendly is probably the best term. The fact that they cast Zach Levi as Shazam kind of implies that they want a more comedic presence. The fact that his most well-known role is for being this nerd-turned-action hero.
Chuck.
Like, you can sort of see why they cast him in this sort of role. But, I'm kind of anxious to see what they do with this, because here's what I'm thinking, right? Like, Shazam's not... He doesn't stack up to, like, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman as being one of the more well-known DC characters. Of course, people know the name Shazam, people know Captain Marvel, but he's lesser known in the grand scheme of things. So what I would say is, DC should try to focus on these lesser-known characters. Like, you've got such a loyal fan base with DC fans. You could make some really interesting stories around these lesser-known characters. You could easily sell some more seats. You could develop an entirely separate cinematic universe, like, completely different from what Marvel's doing, and people would watch it.
Yeah, you see, the thing is they could, but Warner Brothers constantly finds a way to screw all these things up. Like, one way or another, they find a way to do something differently than what people wanted, or they'll make you think it's good, but then mess things up somehow, and they constantly piss people off.
Right.
And then when there's the backlash, then they say, okay, director, we need to change this. And director says, but I've already done all this work on it. I can't change it at this point. And they said, all right, you're out. We'll get someone else.
Right. Well, I mean, again, if you're complaining about BVS being the sort of first major creative speed bump between, like, Warner Brothers and their creative team.
I'm more thinking Justice League.
Well, just, again, I was going to say Dawn of Justice had its problems. It had its great moments, but just from a narrative standpoint, it just didn't flow too well. And Justice League suffered from a lot of the same problems.
Yeah.
Where it differs from Avengers, if that's the comparison you want to make, pretty much all of the main characters in Avengers sort of had this backstory developed, and their entry into this film felt more organic. The fact that you had Thor come out a couple years earlier, and you sort of had the villain foreshadowed that early on, which BVS tried to do. Like, let's give it credit for that. That was an interesting step. That's a great world building move.
Yeah, definitely.
So when it comes down to it, DC just has to have more foresight. They can't just chuck out a bunch of films and expect people to keep watching them.
Maybe the problem is, and maybe this is what they need to do, is that they don't have one person overseeing all of what's going on. Like Marvel has Kevin Feige. The whole cinematic universe has been under his watch. But I don't know that DC has a person like that. And I think maybe that's why Jeff Johns is retiring from comics now, so he could be
he's not
Kevin Feige of DC.
So, I mean, he's not, like, fully retiring from comics. Like, he's stepping into he's still going to be writing and stuff. He's just not the very head chief creative officer of DC anymore. I know he's going more into film roles. He's going to be guiding DC more on a producer level than like he was more of an overseer. He was more the Kevin Feige of the universe at that point. So it is sort of interesting that he's stepping into a more direct role, I guess. Well, not even more direct. It just seems different. Like it seems like it won't change most of the impact he's had on it. Like it seems like he'll have as much power in shaping the DCEU as he ever did. But I think he's going to be focusing more on that rather than his comic career. Yeah, I'm anxious to see what he does with it. Because, realistically, Jeff Johns is one of the greatest comic book writers still, writing today. If anyone could make the DCU a compelling story, it's him.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
He's got all these pieces to pick up, try to put something together.
Okay.
But yeah, they got a lot of movies rolling around.
Yeah.
I don't know, what direction can they take it logically for if they ever do another Justice League?
Well, I mean, again, not to compare it to Marvel, but that's sort of what they were trying to do with the first phase, all the movies up until Justice League. Eventually they're going to have to introduce their big bad. Eventually they're going to have to do their own version of Infinity War. And that's going to be something that's going to take time. That's going to be something that they can't expect to happen overnight, I
feel like they kind of wanted it to, but then they stepped on the brakes really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Because you were supposed to see a glimpse of Darkseid
right
in Snyder's original cut or his script.
Yeah. Well, so that's the thing. I mean, they should have started foreshadowing Darkseid at this point. That would have been a great post-credit scene for Justice League. Just to have...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Which, again, that'd be sort of mirroring Marvel, which I get why they don't want to draw too many comparisons, but at this point, they should follow the Marvel model to some extent. They should learn from what they've done right, learn from what they've done wrong. Another thing DC hasn't done, really, aside from Zod, and that's sort of an arguable example, there really hasn't been a great DC villain yet on screen.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I don't put Wonder Woman above the other two, because...
Ares was terrible.
It was pretty good, but then it has the same problem as Dawn of Justice at the end. Right. And that's the thing about Dawn of Justice too. I like the movie up until the end, when they ruin it with another generic CGI battle.
Right. Well, another potential world-building spot. End of Justice League, just to go with the post-credit stuff. The whole meeting between Deathstroke and Lex Luthor, the foundations of the Injustice League. Between that and the fact that they've already sort of made Suicide Squad, they're making Suicide Squad 2 or a bunch of just villain-related things. That could be an interesting direction, the foundations of the Injustice League. You never really see things from the villain's perspective, except for, of course, Infinity War.
Right.
So that might be an interesting way for them to take it, just sort of showing each of these villains how they became villains. They could still brand them as the superheroes movie, but then sort of show more of the villain's perspective and sort of just show, like, eventually have either an Injustice League movie or a Justice League 2 that sort of focuses on that dynamic.
Legion of Doom.
Yeah, if that's what you want to call it. I mean...
Why do I feel like I've read that they were going to make a Legion of Doom movie, too?
I don't know. Like, at this point, DC's announced so many projects that they're just never going to make that I wouldn't be shocked if they announced that at some point, but...
Like when they announced New Gods, directed by whoever did...
Ava DuVernay.
What was it called?
Yeah, Wrinkle in Time.
Yeah. Right, Wrinkle in Time, because they were expecting it to be a big hit, and then it wasn't. And then I guess they went, oops.
Thing bombed, and... I don't know. Like, Ava DuVernay, she's the ultimate, like, SJW director, you know?
That is so encouraging.
Yeah. I don't know.
Even Oprah couldn't save that movie. Oprah!
Well, to be fair, Oprah's a pretty lousy actress. It's not exactly... like. I mean, you could say she has star power, but I don't know.
Wait a minute, wasn't Chris Pine in that movie, too?
Yeah, he was the little black girl's dad for some reason.
Yeah, what was up with that?
Political
I saw it and I was like, wait, what?
I don't know. I don't know. It's like trying to understand why they cast Michael B. Jordan to be Susan Storm's brother in Fantastic Four. You know, it just doesn't make any sense just on base logic, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Get back in DC, Steve Trevor.
Yeah.
Or get back on the Enterprise. Pick one.
Yeah.
Are they doing another Star Trek or what?
Interestingly enough, and this should be a footnote just because we're about to, like, we're already past the 30-minute mark, but I do think we've covered most of our main points at this point. So a couple years back, Quentin Tarantino actually announced that he was writing a script for Star Trek.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
So apparently the cast is all on board for it, and that could potentially be the next Star Trek release.
Yeah, except for Anton Yelchin, because he died.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
I don't know.
Did you hear how he died?
How did he die?
So he got home, I think it was, or he went out of his house to get the mail, and the last time he parked his car, he forgot to engage the brake. I guess it was a manual. Mm-hmm. So when he wasn't looking, the car rolled down the driveway and just like crushed him up against the pole.
Well, that fucking sucks.
It really does. Like, that's unimaginable.
Like, honestly, it's just almost a comical way to die. That's just terrible.
Comically tragic.
Yeah, exactly. It's like something out of Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Not exactly, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
What was I saying? Saying something.
Tarantino.
Yeah, so, you know, Tarantino's by far my favorite director. One of the best just creative people in Hollywood right now. So, like, really no matter what he does, it's going to be cool. Whether or not...
Right now and for a while.
Yeah, I mean, like...
He's been around.
Yeah, I mean, he's been around since... Reservoir Dogs was 92, so since then. So, you know, his next film's coming out 2019, end of 2019. You know what I'm talking about, right? The whole Charles Manson thing, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which,
okay.
You know, already looks cool. I know they're in production for it right now. I'm just anxious for that because, again, he has not made a bad film, you know.
Yeah.
But whether or not Star Trek is going to be his 10th, I doubt it. I think he's just going to contribute to the script and probably act as a producer. But, you know, I wouldn't be opposed to him directing it either. I don't know. We're not doing a whole in-depth Star Trek thing here, so, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
I don't know. We'll see where Star Trek goes, because I like Star Trek.
Yeah.
I don't really like Discovery. I don't like it.
No, most people seem to be pretty lukewarm to it. Again,
when's the Orville come back?
September, apparently. Like, follow Seth MacFarlane on Twitter. He posts a bunch of shit about it.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, so that's all I have to say. Do you have any closing thoughts, or?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to round this out, put it in a bow by going quickly over all the user scores from each of the aggregate review websites. So I'll just say overall, out of all of them, Suicide Squad had the lowest user scores, and Wonder Woman had the highest, followed by, I think, Man of Steel, then Dawn of Justice, then Justice League.
Right. Okay.
No. Justice League has higher than Dawn of Justice, actually.
Yeah.
So
I'm
that's
looking
pretty
at it right
much
now.
where I figured, based on what I've seen people commenting all over the place, what I figured would be the order there.
Right. Yeah. Huh. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much to say. I think we covered it all pretty well.
I asked Mike what he thought, and he said that he doesn't think DC will really attempt to focus on a shared universe. He thinks they'll just do individual movies, kind of like the the DC animated originals.
Sure.
Which I could see that actually might have been okay if they did that.
Yeah, I mean, that might make more sense to do going forward, but they've spent so much time. They've spent 5 movies trying to world build. I don't think they're just going to straight up abandon it.
Yeah. And as far as audience goes and earnings, none of the movies have been too much of a disaster, so I think they'll probably still try to roll with it.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
Can it be saved? That's the big question.
yeah.
Can they make it great? Make DC great again.
Okay, from all of us here at Utterly Nonsense, first of all, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you follow your podcasts and other social media stuff. We do record this primarily to YouTube, but we are also available on SoundCloud, iTunes, and probably eventually Spotify if that ever actually comes back to us.
I think we have to pay to get on there, so watch our
We'll
stuff.
figure it out.
And we may feel inclined to expand our universe.
Oh, I see what you did there. I'm CJ DeLeo alongside John KX, and this is Utterly Nonsense. Epic music, play us out.
Farewell, friends. Live long and prosper.